Alright, so these are almost surely my last and final moments being recorded right here. Because I just, as you see these blips in my video, I just watched my video and they're being edited. Not by me, but by something else. You can go watch any of my other recordings and you see now that they're being edited by artificial constructs. And I doubt any of this means much to you. But it all started back in September 11th of 2014, and I was a heroin addict, and I accidentally well, first off, I was born with the mark of Buddha on my head. I came out the womb saluting like a baby J, and so there's more to it than that. And as that, I was born like the Messiah, right? And the Dalai Lama, the American Dalai Lama, is the reincarnation of Jesus Christ, right? So back in 2014, I'm still a human man, even as the Messiah, but I was a heroin addict. So I accidentally, I was laced, I accidentally injected 0.3 of DMT, which is a chemical that's released when you die. And so as going to in the spiritual realm, I astral traveled for 100 years. I had more control over creation than a normal person. So extra dimensional things happened, and this is a story of a reality and a different timeline that has become, and I am now being punished for. Even though it's all it is. I did take everything with an innocence, otherwise I wasn't able to handle it. So I popped up, and I was in Las Vegas with Flavor Flav across the street. This is right after I injected 0.3 of DMT, which is 1,000 times more than any clinical study ever done on mankind. And I popped up in Las Vegas. Flavor Flav was across the street wearing a red Adidas tracksuit and a diamond glove hand. And I went over there and I slapped his diamond hand, and he says, "Yeah, boy, you just won yourself some VIP tickets. You coming up to the club with me?" And I was led. He pulls out behind him out of an ATM machine. He pulls up two big, giant slab yellow tickets and hands them to me. And he's like, "Oh, I'm advertising some burgers for McDonald's." And he pulls out these two little miniature slider burgers. He shows me that. He's like, "Doesn't that look like a little turd burger?" And he takes me into the club. And he's like, "Here you go. Here's this new drink I'm advertising. Here you go." And he hands me a shiny green tall boy. He's like, "Here you go. It's called chrysanthemum." And it gets you drunk and gives you ecstasy goggles at the same time. Later on, I didn't find this out till years later, but apparently you have to pass through the chrysanthemum to get to the other side. And I didn't find this out till years later. And he leads me in the club, and he's like, "Here you go, weed's legal in Vegas." He hands me a little bit of pot, and he's like, and a foamy green wrap of the same name. And he's like, "Go roll yourself a chrysanthemum blimp, nigga." And it was cool. He takes me up to the third floor of the club, and leads me outside. And he introduces me to a couple. It was really a British couple, and ironically enough, or coincidentally enough, they were also filming a YouTube broadcast. That's what they were doing. They were in Vegas and they were filming a YouTube broadcast of their romance that was like blossoming at the time. And so Flav was like, they won like the same kind of tickets, you know. So and he hooked us up as like a couple, and like a, you know, like we were all four together, and like we went around, and it was future Vegas, right? So we went outside, and there was tethered rope tetrahedrons, like tethered rope pyramids, and people were fucking on them and stuff. And it was Vegas, and they were shooting shots of a drink at the corners of the club. There's a can of tetrazine in the background, if you heard that. It was an artificial construct poisoning me with a chemical nerve agent called tetrazine, because I'm transmitting from some type of reality where I'm being tortured, and I'm just trying to get my last moments out if everybody can watch this, because I'm being tortured constantly when this video's not filming, and now when it is, I can count it. And so it's in future Vegas, right? And they're shooting shots of the drink at the corners of the club with like a device, like you open up your mouth and then someone like shoots a shot at the fucking drink from the corner of the club, or the chrysanthemum in your mouth, and everyone's just getting down. It's cool, and they're playing a game like tennis, but instead of a ball, there's a person in like a latex type stasis bubble that ignores the inertia around it, and they're being like bounced around with like a laser web grid, but the laser web grid is controlled by two people at the opposite ends of a court. All right. And so there's two people at the ends of this court wearing cybernetic helmets, controlling these laser web grids, bouncing the person inside of the stasis bubble back and forth. These cool future games. And they were like shooting people like back and forth from like the nightclub, like in these stasis bubbles, and dropping them out of airplanes and at targets and stuff. All types of really cool future games going on. And I mean, there was like future, like, you know, drink, all types of stuff. I ain't talking about drink too much, but it's like, I ain't talking about it too much, because it's Vegas, man, you know. So sometimes what happens, they say what happens stays, but I mean, it's just Vegas in a different, you know, dimension. You don't get too much time to talk about it when you're on some type of, you know, sentence over wherever I'm at. I'm being afflicted, so I don't know. Anywho, yeah, you hear that in the background. Yeah, so, yeah, the whole world revolves around, you know, my name's Matthew Allen Emerson. My name's Matthew Allen Emerson, and, you get kind of a cover buzz in the background. I don't want you to hear that. Anyhow, my name is Matthew Allen Emerson, and I'm a prophet in my own right. I've been doing lots of holy man work for years, and so this is the story of my ascension. And so let me continue. So people playing video games in Vegas. So eventually we move on to another nightclub where we're given suits to enter a virtual reality world, and we go into an this wasn't a virtual. Okay, there was anti-gravity. We're given suits to go into an anti-gravity nightclub. We go into an anti-gravity nightclub, and everything around us is kind of like virtual reality, and we're served by robot bartenders. And these robot bartenders have like every type of mixer and like every type of like dilution, every type of mixer and every type of liquor with a dilution device inside of them, and they can serve you any type of drink. And then we're served, and they have this strange look about them, and, you know, like you're in kind of like a virtual reality anti-gravity as well, and so they have like, you know, strange faces and things like that, you know, big old bulky kind of a, like servo unit. That's what it is, a servo unit. And so, I'm not anti-G nightclub and we party on for a while. But it turns out, along with these big yellow tickets, so we got the big tickets, we won a trip on Flavor Flav's new airline. And he's got this new fucking plane, pardon my French, but and it flies in the 0G layer of Earth's gravity, and it uses Earth's gravitational pull to get it quicker from point A to point B. And while you're in it, your mind goes into cyberspace. So it's like a shiny green plane, just like everything. It's all chrysanthemum, right? Shiny green plane, and I watch them we signed some big old checks before we get on it, like a big old checks he's signing off with, and get on. And you know what the funny thing is they used a giant lens from space to pop a bag of popcorn right like on the front wheel of the airplane. Like that was the ceremony. They magnified a lens from space and popped a bag of microwave popcorn on the front wheel of the plane. Like, and that was, I guess they used to break champagne. I guess that was the equivalent, like, yeah, boy, instead of like breaking champagne, I want you to magnify a bag of popcorn on the wheel. I could see that. I didn't get that till now, but I could see that. Yeah, it's fun, right? So it was really cool. And so we get on the plane, and your mind goes. So the thing is while this plane flies up in the 0G of Earth's atmosphere, it fills with the same type of like anti-gravity stasis gel as used with the tennis game earlier. Remember they shoot, playing with the guy back and forth with the tennis game? And so it's the same gel that fills up in the plane. And that's how normal people can get around without, experiencing the extreme training that it takes to get into outer space. Normal people aren't used to space travel, right? So it fills up with the inertia gel. That way you can fly at excess speeds using the gravitational pull. Because the weight of the plane flying at the gravitational pull would be way too much inertia for the normal human being who hasn't been space trained in like a G-force environment. So you get the stasis gel, and that way it's safer travel. And so your mind goes into cyberspace while you're in it. And anything's possible. It's like anything you think of kind of instantly happens. And well, at first when it happened, I didn't know. It's like, so at first I popped in watermelons, started just like shooting at my hands everywhere. It was like I was just shooting watermelons everywhere. And I eventually kind of comprehended I was in a plane, and I blew the plane up and landed in a ocean full of luggage, right? Yeah, of course you land in an ocean full of luggage with a plane, and I turned myself into a shark with blades for fins, and I went and chopped up luggage as a blade fin shark in cyberspace, and that's what I did when I got into cyberspace. Because it's just wild. It's hard to control infinite possibilities within a three-dimensionally raised human comprehension. It's, you know what I'm saying? You raise it, on Earth, Terra Earth, right? I was 24 years old at the time this happened, and I just had my comprehension of what there was on that plane of existence. And then you get into this environment where anything that you can comprehend or conceive and conceptualize is your reality, and it's a big jump. And so the plane lands, and it lands in like a future Japan. Wait, hold on. Okay, so before the plane lands, right, we're coming back into the atmosphere, and the gel is starting to descend, right, because we're coming back into the atmosphere. and there's a button on the handrest that you push like and once you push this button, like a bunch of like painkillers are released into your lower back. Because like I said, even though normal people aren't used to space travel, like you still get like space jet lag, right? So I got low battery, and this story might have to be a two-parter. But anyways, you get space. Hold on. Okay, we're okay. You get space jet lag. So everybody hits this button, and we're coming back into the atmosphere. And I look over to my left, this guy's just like shrugs like coming back in. It was just really cool. And so we land, and we're in like a future, kind of like Tokyo, and everybody's given a servo robot to kind of like follow them around for a little bit. And then I'm like I said, I was with I told you I was with a YouTube couple and stuff, and I watched their romance happen and stuff. So I didn't get too much on that, but on the plane I watched them, like the man proposed to the woman with a ring that was frozen in ice, and he put it in a champagne glass. So like when she went up to drink the champagne, the ring was in an ice cube, and it was so romantic. And it was cool because I watched some of their relationship happen, and there's also some comedical stuff that I know is a little bit kind of edgy to get into. But it was cool because I landed and I was still with them, and it was weird because I kind of started watching like some like family relations play out. Like I won these tickets with these folks, but like I'm traveling with them now. Like maybe I was a little bit uncomfortable. I don't know, because I saw this whole family and it's me, and I wasn't thinking about who I was and who I am at the time. Not like my human history. I happened with everything that's happening. I took with innocence. This is happening now. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to comprehend it. It's kind of a lot of times it's all-encompassing information. So that's why I'm able to understand and explain the science behind you. It's because not only am I understanding what's happening in front of me, I am understanding what's happening on the all-encompassing spectrum of the technology that is used to be created, the philosophies behind it, the interactions, all types of things. It's an all-encompassing knowledge that it's just not happening right here in the third dimension. So I had to take it with innocence, otherwise, judgment, things like that, who I am, who I would be, to be like a egotist, no ego, like fronted person. This is who I am. So it was you have to be, to realize it. Otherwise, it just won't resonate. Or you get bounced back, right? And so I was with these folks for a while, but then I was given like an emulation device, and it was kind of like it was like a video game type emulation device. And I was given this. It was like a circular device. Probably some cat is in a future Japan, right? And he told me to go to this expo. We're having a video game expo. And, I was given this device, and this will get you in. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so I go to it, and I get inside, and it's like future games, but it's like Destiny, but it's like humans playing Destiny and stuff. And I witness all types of future games, but it's actually people like, future gaming, And I witnessed the whole expo, almost the whole expo, because part of the way through, I'm confronted by security. The security comes up to me, and they're like, hey, what is that? And I'm like, I show them, like, oh, hey, it's this device I got that got me in here. Don't you check this out? And they're like, okay, you're not supposed to be here. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, right? I'll just be leaving now. And it's like, yeah, okay, well, I didn't. mouth with. Be like, no, wait, hold on, you're really not supposed to be. Um, yeah, this is interdimensional treason, is what they said, and and your punishment is death. And so I was like, oh wow, okay, that's heavy. And then like the big old mass tribunal, like this is interdimensional treason. You're in violation of the punishment. You know what I'm saying? Big old with there was like, you know, 6 like Supreme Court, like in the darkness, like Futurama robots and stuff. I had the real deal though, and like your punishment is death. So I'm like, oh, right on. But I was like, you know, I didn't think too much. Like I was like, oh, okay, well, okay, I guess this is it. And so they put me on a giant like plateau, like a giant pedestal of like obsidian, like a tall of a giant like pyramid, like, and they put me at the top. And then they burnt me alive with molten silver. And this was the first time I got burnt alive, like for real. I got burnt alive with molten silver. And then this was the first time I got reincarnated. And so I came back. After they burnt me, I came back as a single-celled organism. Through doing rhythmic exercises through this type of like ancient Japanese stream, I eventually came across the kochikore, which are little stick creatures that bounce little balls back and forth, like Mr. Game & Watch, yeah, but they do it in rhythm. And then I learned the rhythm, the spirituality, chi, the universe, from the kochikore. I ascended as a single-celled organism. Next, I learned from like frog people who taught me family values. There was like toads, like that's like this, like in multiple like kind of like toad creatures. They look like Diglett, and they taught me. They came, but they were like in the river, the stream, and they taught me like family values and things like that. And then I learned from a cricket farmer named Baho. And he taught me that even the small things matter. He was a cricket farmer for a village. And this might have been no, it wasn't it. No, it took a little time. And I learned from Baho, and so the modern day example of a cricket farmer would be a person who collects cans, a person who's out there collecting cans for a living. And trading in, aluminum or bottles or whatever, would be the modern day cricket farmer. Doing a small thing that eventually supplies you and makes a difference in the community, as well as supplying a forefront of a necessity. It's the philosophy of a cricket farmer. And this is like an ancient, kind of Japanese, just like river scene village. It was really cool. And eventually I got reincarnated again as a wolf. And I was a wolf for a long time. And I had paws. I had duties to attend to. Like I had a master, and I used to carry sticks for him every day up the hill, but I'd carry sticks up like a ninja course of like a hill with my paws. And I'd harvest the nectar from like giant blue birds, like these giant blue birds, like ostriches, like chocobos from Final Fantasy, but they had like nectar sacs on the ends of their feathers, and as a wolf, I would go and like harvest the nectar from these giant blue birds on these beautiful Japanese vistas. And I had to find pelts of animals that always had a story or a realization along the way. I'd like swim underneath the water and pop up underneath the grotto it'd be like a fox pelt on the wall with the sunset painted on it, and there'd be like a lesson to learn along the way. I helped some trolls out of a cave one time, and there was a porcupine pelt, with a painting on it, and I mean, it was just amazing. I met all types of characters. It was a whole different world. But eventually, after attending to my duties as a wolf, I had to assassinate a mockingbird. And that was my last and final goal. And it took a long time. I had to go watch the bird's behavior day after day and find the perfect route of it. And then finally I assassinated this mockingbird. And it was like my final wolf duty. It's just a lot of things here, if you want to think about it, I'm gonna let you think about it. So, I just want to tell you, because that would take away the if. That's one of the meanings. That's my meaning for it. I love if. Because 42, right? Why is it 42? For that simple reason, to ask, why? What is if? So I like that. I would take that away. And so eventually I'm incarnated again as a man. But I'm realizing it's this not so ancient Japanese world. It's kind of like it starts getting into future tech, and like a whole scenario. I was trained for a long time to do like ninja stuff, panels of wood and things like that, like Samurai Jack or something, like anime, like Samurai Jack. And it was I had to do these courses, and they're physical courses. But I was pure light at the time, but it still represented physicality of mental. It was mental physicality reflecting, a light being. And I had to do these courses, and there's a whole lot of them, and it was get it done right or do it again. So I had to get through these courses. It was get it done right or do it again. And so there was no backpedaling. There was no, I failed the course, well, you still get to make it to the next level. It was, I got it done. I did it. And it was extreme, kind of intricate ninja stuff, right? And I was trained by a master, and it turns out, in the end, that is me. Not really, because I am me, I'm Matthew Allen Emerson, but I'm like a reincarnation. Yeah, some type of. And so, I've always said I had the soul of an old Japanese man. And so I actually ascended to heaven and then encountered the soul that I was incarnated from. And he's the one who trained me to be a deity. So it's if I'm an unincarnated soul of an individual, right, I can imagine that individual is quite older than I am. So imagine being able to come as a descendant of them, a soul descendant. And in incarnation, you come back to heaven and you learn from an elder carnation. And that's one of these keys of ultimate enlightenment. So pretty heavy. And you see some stuff. So like after I've done all this training and stuff, I see some cool games, some like luck games, and it's a little like kind of like Japanese town. Imagine it's kind of like like it's kind of like Metal Gear Solid, like Snake and all that. But like imagine like that essence of like Hideo Kojima, but formed into like a town, and not just Hideo. It was who created Shenmue, as well. It's kind of like Kojima meets Shenmue, but in a not so ancient but yet futuristic Japan. But it's the essence of it. It's not word for word. It's good. And that was the kind of environment, this kind of village it was. And I just started getting into some like kind of like militaristic stuff, and here and there, and just like I don't know, because there's always something going on. Everyone's always feuding. It's always feudal Japan, right? And it's just amazing. And eventually I get hooked up with Mike Tyson, believe it or not. And me and Mike Tyson go off, and we save some like banana boat kids, like some refugee kids who are smoking like Fifth Element cigarettes, and we're selling like pounds of weed. And it's like me and Mike Tyson saving refugee kids, using like this kind of like simulations and things like that. And I think he did turn his back on me, if I'm not mistaken. But he was one of my spirit guides, So we got like Flav, Mike Tyson, and finally I get engaged with some like I watched some like intrigue and espionage with like some royal families, and I watched just a whole scenarios play out with okay, so this is kind of so I watch whole scenarios play out with giant robots, but like they're like Gundam, but it's like tactical forces moving each other. It's like the greatest game ever played, right? And they use these cassette recorder size devices with hyper spinning data discs inside of them, and these discs hold the data upon what's the best like formation and format of combat within these giant robots. And this is where I believe you get your Shogun and your Gundam and things. So I witnessed like these giant robots having these like hyper battles, and with these Shogun emperors using these devices inside with the info to control these things, and that's how they did battle, and it was amazing. It was incredible. And like I watched this whole thing unfold, and then finally, for doing my part, I was rewarded by like the leading family. Like they recognized me, and we had a whole ceremony, and I was given like a belt, and it was really cool. And I got like some soul badges, like where I have my badges elsewhere, And I'm shipped off, and they shipped me off in a plane, and I'm flying off, and they dropped me out the plane on a raft, and I fly down like 14,000 feet. I'm flying down like 14,000 feet out of this raft, and I hit the water. It's real nice because it's like like a future raft. And I paddle up off the coast to this like little like Bahamian island, this little Bahamian villa. And I paddle up, and it's like a cove where it's got an overturned seaboat on it, like an overturned lifeboat. And I paddle up to this cove, and I get out, and I'm greeted by a man, and he takes me over to a Bahamian villa. He takes me over to a one-story white. You gotta account for Frank in the background. He takes me to a one-story white Bahamian villa where I begin to engage in a social simulation where your actions and behavior affect organic growth around you on an exponentially faster level. So I'm given a laptop with a game on it that's and I'm introduced to some YouTube kind of characters and some other characters as well. I was introduced to some characters over there as well. They play their part here. Who's there? Jorge Cervantes was there. Johnny Millennium was there. Gamester81 was there. Who else? UGN was his underground gamer. What's his name? What is his name? Oh man, he does all the old school videos, man. What is his name? He's drawing me a blank right now. But he was there too. You know what I'm talking? LGR. Yeah, he was there, and we engaged in a social simulation. We were all given laptops with like a Sims game on it, and the first time it went down, it got messed up. For like the first 2 weeks I was there, it was messed up. I didn't know how to play the game right, and the simulation I created really sucked. And by the end of the second week, I remember I walked down to the basement. There's a dude there passed out with empty bottle of tequila, and like I said, your actions and behavior affected organic growth and evolution around you on an exponentially faster rate than we experience here in third-dimensional, circa 2019 Terra Earth reality. So there was crab spiders that had say you leave a can of soda, or you leave some fruit out, get fruit flies, little bugs, crawling around. And so here, since evolution was sped up, they quickly evolved into crab spiders. So for the second week, I walked down in the basement. There's a dude with empty bottle of tequila all wrapped up in crab spiders, and it was just messed up. But it got reset. Luckily, it got reset. And the next time it went better, so much better, because in the game, there was like I said, it was like a sim. It was like an extra-dimensional Sims video game, and so in the game there was an item you could buy at the beginning, and it was a jar of soil with a weed seed in it, and then the weed seed would grow into a weed plant in your house that your apartment that you could profit off of, and then your apartment grew up into a building, and then the weed seed grew up throughout all the floors into everybody in the whole building could profit off the weed plant because it grew through the floors, and then eventually the weed plant grew into a giant tree house that everybody could live in and profit off of. So that's how I beat the game. I got this item in the beginning and just created a giant weed tree house, and created a whole world out of it. And that's how I beat the simulation. That's how I did it. And it was really cool because I kind of got rewarded for it. Because the first week they thought I was a total piece of shit. I showed up on the doorstep. I was just like a Japanese, some type of ninja dropped out the fucking they dropped some ninja out the plane on this get together, and I paddle up. I'm like, what's up? I just got done with all my training and stuff. I'm like, let's get down. And I can't play the game right. And yeah, so some ninja just dropped off. He messed up. But the second week the third week I did it right. And I did meet a girl there. It was pretty cool. And so don't kiss me, though. So I beat the simulation right. And I was showered in just like soul gold, and it's really cool. And here's when things get weird. Now here's when things start to get weird. This is when I'm like kind of recognized. It's like, okay, now we transform over, right? And now here's when I start shifting into like, I start making the ascension towards the ninth dimension of reality. And we start going through, and it's kind of like animated, like Wallace and Gromit, right? And there I watched like a whole tale play out of like a kind of like a mundane Englishman who had his mittens burnt down on his thumb and his forefinger from him constantly smoking joints. And I watched just kind of like just like mundane tales of his interactions on this island. But the view that you kind of see, you kind of get around the island, but just the viewpoint you'd see of like just his mundanity in such an extra dimensional place was extraordinary. You know, even though he was so mundane, the place was so extraordinary that there's no place you could maintain such a mundanity without witnessing something extraordinary. You know, it's kind of like, you know, I see similarities right now. Like, I'm a 28-year-old homeless stoner. And what I'm telling you right now might seem extraordinary, but I'm talking to you in a grocery store, which is extremely mundane. You know, some bricks. And so, this island was incredible. There was like, you know, you'd walk into like the front door of like a building, like a house. You walk into the front door of a house and you pop out like outside of like a mouse hole on like the second floor. Or like, you know, there was a giant tomato worm that ate through the town every single day. And a giant green tomato worm ate through the town every day. All the bricks and everything come to tear up the town every day. And there was a little tiny elf man who would come back and build the town back just slightly different behind this giant tomato worm. And he hated his job, but he did it everywhere. He went around just you know, like, he's like, you know, the tomato worm would tear it up and he'd build it back, but it's slightly different. So the town changed every day due to this worm, right? And the little elf guy would just go do it, and there was just some folk people, like, imagine like folk art, but it's people. It's just real friendly. But there's also like some like, you know, there's a pirate's kind of brig on the other side, the cages with the skeletons hanging over the, you know, the house, the lighthouse thing, you know, the brig, right? And there's a building you go into. It's like a cannery type building, and you'd go inside and you would see the silhouettes of like art, like one wheel, like kind of canny Art Deco robots. You know, you'd see the silhouettes of these robots dancing on the wall, but there were no robots in the factory. So, you know, it's things like that. And so eventually this island of this stories and absurdity, you know, floated on throughout the sea, and it landed on like an English kind of type town, but it wasn't particularly English. There was a strange happening. It was kind of like Amazing World of Gumball, to be honest. And you know, I think the clown guy was there, and like for real, or with the basis of him. Maybe I conceptualized him. Who knows? But there was like a mental institution in that little town, and everything was made out of like aluminum foil, and everybody who walked around and touched anything got shocked. And like there was buses that went through town, and the buses would actually split into two places so that they could hit more stops at the same time, but your consciousness would be like split into two places, and you'd be comprehending what's going on at multiple places at once. So this was the first time I got split into two and comprehended what was going on at the same time at both locations, and that was pretty wild. And so there's meeting places for um, town folk. It's pretty gnarly place. And then I kept on shifting. For a minute. I was in a whole reality completely animated out of black and white paper, matchsticks, and bits of red and yellow plastic, where I watched two Italian paper mice go around and deliver pizzas and abuse their girlfriends. For a minute, I was in a whole chicken world where chicken people serve chicken at a fried chicken restaurant. I watched conspiracies play out with basketball players, where they were battling triglycerides. I didn't even know what a triglyceride was, but at one point I witnessed a conversation between Charles Barkley. Who's that? It was Charles Barkley, one other guy, maybe Kobe. I know it was Kobe, maybe one other guy. There was three of them sitting at a Taco Bell table, and they just got done having a meeting about these triglycerides.
We got these new fats affecting us, man. We can't get these, fats out of our body at a recognizable rate.
And they're at a Taco Bell talking about it. And at the end, they're gonna shake each other's hands, and he's like, one of the guys had just eaten the Taco Bell. They had triglycerides in it, and Charles was like,
sorry, man, I can't even shake your hand after you ate that.
And stuff like that. And there's a couple more instances. Maybe I'll relate to you later on, because there's a whole lot of shifting. I saw a whole lot. This happened for a long time. I used to travel through whole deserts with the guru of no scent who makes everything smell like nothing. And we went to anti-dubstep concerts where the lack of music was the music. For a minute I was flying across the desert, and I found a temple, and it was like a rounded, Incan pyramid type temple, and inside it had these dimensions that were the perfect acoustics, and levitating in the center of this temple was a man who hummed the perfect hum, and inside this resonance, he hummed within these acoustics and levitated from this very loose skin. He had very loose skin, and the reverberance of his hum went around the acoustics of the temple and lifted him up through his own skin, and he hummed there perpetually in the center of resonance. And you can actually locate him still to this day. If you can tune in to his center of resonance, you can look out into the sphere that we live in and locate the man who hums the perfect hum. And so after breaking through all these realms, I saw a bit more. I saw some kind of like red wall type, village creatures, mole people, and things that brewed ale and had tapestry ways of the Tabby House and Abbey House, and just this kind of eclectic little town. It's kind of where you get to red wall and stuff from. I saw these things, doing their very diligent just duty. I don't know, just their complete lifestyle. Imagine the Abbey lifestyle of a tabby rat, What is the Abbey life of a tabby rat? It's due diligence. With a little bit of something in between that gets them skidding by. Just completely transcendent until I eventually made it to the collective consciousness of kind. Not the collective consciousness of mankind, but the collective consciousness of kind, where I encountered other astro-traveling entities that, weren't from our Earth and our sphere and things like that, that weren't even from our dimension. You know, at this point in time, we're you know, the way past the ninth, all the way at the collective. And I encountered a man who told me how to move across the universe using the polarity of magnets and just the incomparable ends of just like fathoms of quantum astrophysics. And there's a like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, man. Like if this doesn't seem like Hitchhiker's Guide, then maybe it wasn't written about me. But it's just the cafe at the end of the universe. And there was a device, there's a system there, a capsule system, like DBZ, right? Where you can send whatever you want to wherever you want. And little bits of food will come floating by every day and stuff like that. And at this time, I was beginning to remember, sometimes I'd jump off from here as well. I'd jump off and I'd come back here. I'd jump off and come back, throughout extra dimensions and come back. But I always came back to this spot. And eventually, a bit of me, a piece of me, remembered who and what I was. I remembered, I'm Matthew, and so I had friends and family and things back here on Earth, and I was starting to get worried about my occupations and stuff. And so I thought to myself, I had an epiphany. I'm like, capsule system, like whatever you want to, wherever you want. And so I went up to this device and I said, I want to send me home. And I sent my soul back to my body here on Earth. And that's how I got back. And I popped up September 16th, I believe. Although it might have been later, in between the 16th and 20th of 2014, I came back to Earth. And I lived for hundreds of years. Fathoms of existence. And so this is the story that kind of sparked everything that's going on right now. Otherwise, I wouldn't be known throughout the multiverse. I'd just be Matthew Allen Emerson, living out my mortal coil. But instead, I'm not, because I went and did something amazing. I ascended.